We are excited to announce the Restauranttopia VIP Text Club. Join by texting the word podcast to 844-928-4257. You will get access to exclusive content, industry news, deals, announcements, pro tips, and more. The VIP Text Club is an exclusive community of independent restaurant owners and professionals. Join today. Message and data rates may apply. Please check our website for our terms of service and privacy policy.
Imagine a perfect world where you can build a restaurant, open the doors, and make loads of money. Unfortunately, those days are over. It takes great leadership, hard work, and long hours to operate a successful restaurant. Together, we can make it happen. This is Restauranttopia.
All right, welcome back to Restauranttopia. We have a fantastic episode for you, our listeners, today. Anthony Hamilton's in the studio.
I am.
Brian Seitz.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And myself, Dave Ross.
All right.
The trio. Today are going to discuss, do you want your kids to work in an independent restaurant? Anthony's done the legwork on this episode, and we're going to, I think, banter this one up good. This should be good, and I'm looking forward to it.
I think so.
I love this topic because this is what you should be thinking about, because you're trying to attract staff to your restaurant, and this is what their parents are thinking about.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah. I got a lot to say on this, but I think this is going to be a great discussion. Anyway, so I was talking to my daughter the other day, Katerina, and she's going into college, and we were talking about her job prospects and things like that, right? Mm-hmm. And she had said she wanted to be a server, and because of the flexible hours and some pay and stuff, and at first I was like, oh God, no, don't do that. There's do something easier, do something blah blah blah, And then I started thinking about it, and I started doing research for like pod topics and things, of course. And I stumbled across someone had did like a 5-minute clip on the internet. And it was this exact same topic. And I'm like, my goodness, like, why did you only do 5 minutes? Like, we should have talked about this for a long time. Mm-hmm. And they covered some of the topics, but they didn't really dive into it as much as I wanted to. So that was a great opportunity for us to say, okay, let's open this up, unpack a little more. Mm-hmm. So right off the top, do you want your kids working for an independent restaurant?
I would say 100%.
I think at the right place.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great place to learn life lessons, and then obviously being in the industry, we're probably a little biased, but
See, I was biased the other way. I was biased the other way because I know what I went through as a kid, as a teenager in the industry. All the things I learned. Now, great, the late '90s were a little bit different than nowadays. We're a little more PC, but it was pirates and swashbucklers back then in the back of the house. Like, it was not a very G-rated place to work. So I hearkened back to those memories, and I'm like, no way, no how are my kids getting into the industry? It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then I changed my mind.
I have to say something. I was listening to Josh Koppel's podcast.
Yeah.
He's got a great podcast and a great newsletter too. So check that out.
Yeah,
we'll,
sure.
We'll put Josh's link in the show.
Yeah, please.
Guy's on top of his game.
No, absolutely.
Very cool.
A guru for sure. And so he made a comment in one of, I think it was his Full Comp podcast. And he made a comment to the guest he had on. He said, if my daughter told me she wanted to be in the restaurant industry, I would put her in boarding school. And then he laughed about it, but the perspective is, it's hard work. It's long hours. It's all those things, but the rewards can be great, and the mentorship can be great, and there are great things, and I know you're going to talk about it. So.
Yeah, you're already talking about it, so we're midstream already. So there's pros and cons, right? And that's essentially what I did for this, is just generate a pros and cons list. So what do you think? Let's start with the bad stuff. What's the bad stuff? Why would you not want your kids to work in a restaurant? You just said a couple of them: hard work, long hours.
No, those I think are the positives. Those are both good things.
Okay.
I'll flip the script on that. I would say.
Well, I think they could be on both lists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I just.
Hold on, let me break this down for you.
Okay.
You grew up in construction. You went to law school. You do you know what I mean? Like, you have a different.
Last episode you said lack of criticism is praise enough, is what you said.
Yeah. So your perspective.
We understand
on this,
what
I don't
world
want to say
you
it's
come
a
from.
bad perspective. I'm just saying it's not it's not the average perspective.
Yeah, it's not middle of the road. Right.
I would agree with you, but
I'm wrong.
No, but you're wrong. You're 100% wrong. Like, my son walks through life in one of those big bubbles that, and everything is covered in bubble wrap. Like, there's no sharp edges. There's nothing there to push back. A little hard work is not going to kill him. Long hours aren't going to kill him. Like, that is good. It builds character. Like, you have to work hard so later in life you can appreciate things. Like, if you never have any pushback, the first time that you face some adversity when you're 32, you're going to fucking fold. You're going to fold. Like, you need to have that, and I love the idea of hard work. But let's get back.
You're
to
building
okay,
intestinal fluid.
but let me just peel it a little bit more.
Okay.
Physical hard work, okay. Mental hard work,
Yeah.
or both. I think there's a difference there.
Well,
because I don't have a physically laborious job doesn't mean I'm not working hard.
Correct.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I think that there's
also an environment where the hard work is appropriate, and there's an environment where the hard work is inappropriate, right? And I think you have to be careful of that. There's abuse hard work, and then there's diligent, noble hard work, in my opinion, depending on your leadership and what they have you tasked with, and their organization, the schedule, and what they task you with as well.
Yeah. So what are the reasons why not? Is it we're
we're still on
What are
that.
the reasons why not? Historical culture of sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
I have that exact phrase.
That's where I was going next.
I have that exact phrase in my notes. It's the last bullet point: sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Because I can tell you, I got a lot of comeuppance in that world when I was, an 18-year-old kid. No, don't get me wrong, I was ornery before I started the industry, but the industry perpetuated it. Again, it was pirates and swashbucklers. There was not a lot of attention on the industry. Now things are a little more PC, but it still exists to a certain degree in certain cultures.
Yeah.
They're not going to be exposed to drugs for the first time by a fellow server. They already seen it. Oh, I went to college, and that's the first time I saw marijuana. Like,
Yeah.
it's much different.
Kids are older, younger.
Yeah.
if that
Well,
makes
and
sense.
this is the kind of thing too. Is like, is it super bad they get exposed to that lifestyle and learn the positives and negatives of that lifestyle? Because again, you talk about bubble wrap.
Yeah.
Listen, that's reality. This is a part of culture. I mean, go to a concert once, right? Then you see all the alcohol, all the dope smoked, all that stuff. You have to learn how to act around that, right? And whether you're partaking is a whole different story. But I'm saying, not being shocked by it, not being scared by it, understand that's a part of reality, and learn how to navigate those situations. There's some learning in there.
I can remember the first time I smelled marijuana. Okay, and I've never smoked it, but I can remember the first time I smelled it, and it was
I didn't
I was
inhale.
18 years old at a concert,
Uh-huh.
and this was an indoor concert,
Yeah.
and I can remember
Were you at the Jar?
yes, I was.
Yes, I went to a lot of concerts at the Jar.
It was Pantera, Anthrax,
And Sebastian Bach.
Sebastian Bach.
Yeah, I
Were you
saw.
there?
No,
I think we
no,
talked
no.
about this.
I
Oh.
saw that same show in Wheeling. It was amazing.
Yeah, so I saw him at the Jar, and I remember it was the first time ever, and I think I was 18 years old, maybe.
Yeah, no,
it
yeah.
was the summer
18.
between high school and college.
98.
And yep, exactly.
I know. I saw that tour. That's so
and-
funny.
And yeah, and I remember I was like, and I'm like, whoa, and I'm looking at my buddy like, what is that? He's like, that's weed, and I'm like, oof. That doesn't smell good. Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, to go
pious
back
one.
to like,
I'm
it
gonna
didn't
say
happen
at
at 13.
I'm going to
That
say
didn't
at
happen
18
12.
at that
That didn't- you know
concert,
what I
I
mean?
had an entirely different reaction to that smell than you did.
No, but okay,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, like, now that's my life versus your life, but
Yeah.
it's the same thing. But just to Brian's point, like, I feel just in general, these types of things are experienced earlier because of the speed of technology and
Oh, yeah.
and, like
Information
you're-
just swirls so
Yeah,
much
yeah,
faster.
you're,
I think
you're not
the information
isolated in
flows.
like just the little town you live in.
Right.
Yeah. No, the information flow is so much faster, and the things that kids are exposed to as far as what they're learning. I hate to say this and not sound like old man sites, but it's probably 10 years.
I think it's close, if not. I mean,
You think
Yeah, see, I don't know, because if I think back to when I was in junior high, there was kids that would hang out behind this little bar in town called the Wizard, and they would smoke dope at lunchtime, and we're in 7th grade,
Okay.
and they're drinking and things like that. So I don't
no,
know.
I think it happened. I just think like you happen to be exposed to that there. Like we're almost the exact same age, Anthony, and I never experienced it until what I mean.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
so, but I would tell you like if I had the internet and YouTube and cell phone and like all those, what I mean, like those different things, like you may have, your world becomes bigger.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean, you're not just you're not in your little town.
And marijuana and CBD and those things are part of the national conversation right
Sure,
now too. So
sure.
like,
Yes,
it's-
things are a little
yeah.
bit different.
It's a little different, and then you have the opioid crisis, and you have so those things are out there, and it's
Yeah,
just-
well, and we were focused on weed. That's kind of the G-rated this part of the sex, drugs, and rock and roll I'm talking about. There's way more intense things than that you're exposed to. But ultimately,
no. If you got the line cook doing 3 or 4 key bombs a night, and and hasn't gone to sleep in 3 days, like there's other things that are worse.
yeah. Well, listen, and I want to harp on that just one more second, because on one hand, it's a negative. I don't want my kids exposed to that, right? Like I want my kids to be like, sweet little angels frolicking through life and never do anything wrong. But on the other hand, that's not reality. I want them to make informed decisions. I want them to be educated. I want them to understand the benefits and negatives of this culture. It can be fun, but it's very dangerous, so on and so forth. So there's a part of me that actually kind of likes them being exposed to that, at least from a distance.
I had a good friend of mine, Mike. He said something really cool to me about raising kids, and he's got 3 daughters. You want them to fall down when you're there to pick them up. You don't want to have them so isolated that they never make a mistake or they never kind of get off track when they're outside your view.
Yeah, the first time they fall is when
Yeah, it's junior year in college.
It's
and
devastating.
Yeah,
Right,
and it's also maybe something a little bit more severe. So, there's constant coaching moments with children, and working in the restaurant industry is a great area, in my opinion, for them to be exposed to potential places to fall, but also for you to have coaching moments like, hey, and have an open dialogue. Hey, I saw this at work. What do you think? I saw that at work. What do you think? So those are the cool things.
So let's move on to toxicity. There's something to be said about a negative work environment, whether it's from guests, because we know restaurant guests can be incredibly toxic and abusive. From management, we've talked a lot about good cultures and how sometimes managers fail you. And then also from coworkers, there's a lot of negativity that can drag you down. A lot of gossip, a lot of negative influence, So I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think that's a good or bad thing to subject your kids to that?
I think it's in the same realm of conversation. Like if you've got a great relationship with your child and they're able to experience some of those things and come back and you can say, hey, how'd your day go? And they're honest and open with you and you can give them feedback and coach them up.
Yeah.
I think it's great. If you got a relationship that you either don't care or don't ask or they don't feel comfortable talking to you, like then you could potentially have an issue because they're going to go through that in their own brain and not have somebody to help them through it.
Yeah, I also think that,
And I know this went from this is like we're restaurant operators are like parenting, but
Yeah,
this is,
but it's one and the same.
Exactly.
And I think this is where it goes to how you present yourself to the community, your internal culture, and also I don't believe this is totally a restaurant. It's a problem in some restaurants, but it's a problem in society at different businesses. This one could definitely apply to any business.
Sure.
So I think that it's less of a worry to me. It's just on the list of general concerns.
Yeah, I would say the probability is higher in restaurants. So just in my personal, I've worked in retail, I've worked in restaurants, worked a couple other jobs on campus or whatever. And I would say in restaurants for sure, the exposure to this negativity is much higher than anything I've experienced just from my lens. Let's talk about safety issues. You're talking sharp edges, you're talking slicers, you're talking hot grease, you're talking volatile chemicals. Because you always have that dishwasher that makes their own special floor cleaner, and it just so happens they mix ammonia and bleach, and then you got to evacuate the kitchen for a couple hours.
Dan's degreaser.
Yeah, right. I love it. So how does that make you feel as a parent? Like your 16-year-old is operating a slicer. Is that scary or no?
I was driving a backhoe at 12, so I'm totally not going to.
God, that's a 12-year-old dream.
We need you to exit this episode.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, good or bad?
Again, I look at it the same way. It's like if it's done in a safe environment and trained properly, but again, it's what are you getting your kids signed up for?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys think a lot like I do as far as like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So we might be a bad audience for this topic.
But also the owner operator does not want to hurt anyone. These things are occurring in the child's life. You have knives at the house. You have chemicals at the house. They're not toddlers. They're not going to chug the ammonia bottle. Make sure that your child has enough self-confidence to speak up if they're put in a dangerous situation. But otherwise, get your butt to work and bank some hours.
I love that.
Show up on time and do it.
Hold on. Show up on time.
Show up.
Hey, we'll get
time.
to that. You guys chill out. We'll get to that. All right. So anyway, there's a demanding work environment, long hours, late hours, toxicity, fast-paced environment, high stress, dirty, can be unsafe, and exposure to maybe the underbelly of society through the sex, drugs, and rock and roll culture, right? So all those things are negative, but somehow we've just spun those into a positive, most of them. And the look on your face is like neither one of you were very shocked at all that I said these things exist. You're like, well, yeah, a little exposure to that's okay. A little thing good. So I think the positives list then is, going to be overwhelmingly positive.
No, I mean, does restaurants imitate life or does life imitate restaurants? Like, isn't that the same?
That's a chicken and the egg question, right? No, I love that. So moving on to the pros then, because that's about the only negatives I see in the industry and subjectively they're negative. I don't even know that they're overall that negative because again, it's, exposure to those things can be good. And let's face it, we don't want to raise naive kids who are easily persuaded in any way. We need to have that exposure. What about the pros? And this is the exact same reason I got my daughter into sports and my son into sports. I played sports. I think they were incredibly good for me. I wasn't good enough to go pro, unfortunately. I mean, I had a couple D1 college offers, and I'm just kidding. I didn't.
I was gonna say humble brag. This is.
I didn't have any offers for any school on anything. I was good enough to make the team, but never good enough to star. Right. But what those sports taught me is the exact same thing that restaurants taught me, and it was so nice to have. I played sports my whole life, and then after graduating high school, no sports. But then I moved into restaurants, and I'm like, oh my god, this is the same deal.
You found it,
yeah. So I was just galvanizing these principles and time again. I think they made me a better person, quite honestly. When you thought like teamwork. Right? Teamwork. It's a huge deal in restaurants.
Sure.
Huge deal.
I do like that. And I like the fact that more and more kids need to be exposed to teamwork because if they're playing video games and they're not exposed to that, being your first job in a team environment is pretty awesome.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with limited siblings, right? So you have an only child, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's probably more of an issue with that person because they've only known how, and I'm not trying to throw shade on your kid. I'm just saying he's only known his own being, right?
Oh my god! And he's got an amazing father, an amazing
Well,
stepmom,
yeah.
like it, and can basically get anything he wants. I mean, think about that. Like,
But he's an amazing kid.
he is, but he's still.
He's a heck of a basketball player.
Yeah, heck of a
The
best.
best.
But he also he still has to grow, improve, and evolve. I don't want him to be the same person he is at 10 years old, like when he's 27.
I know a guy like that.
No, the guy, you're out at the business meeting and he's ordering chicken fingers. It's like, what is going on? Like, can you get your parents on the phone right now so I can yell at them?
And he's telling
What-
the guy next
what-
to him how he scored 4 touchdowns in one game. For
Oh
Boca.
yeah. It's like, oh my god. Like it's do you still have all your participation trophies?
Yeah, exactly.
Like I bet his
exactly.
mom has a little shrine in his bedroom that he never closed down. Like turn that thing into a freaking workout room the moment your foot left the door.
Brian's focusing on the be funny bullet point.
I'm not sure it's intentional, but what you uncovered there was a teamwork element is a lot of dealing with accountability, and I think that's
yeah.
huge, right? Because when you make decisions for yourself, you don't have 10 other people looking at you negatively, so there's this peer pressure, positive peer pressure element
Yeah.
that takes place, and I love that about teamwork, and it happens in sports and restaurants both, right? Trust me, in restaurants probably even more so than sports, as crazy as that sounds. But we talked about professionalism, punctuality, right? You learn tons of punctuality. What happens when you show up late?
Pay doctor, you get fired.
Yeah, done and done. Discipline too, self-discipline. I think that ties into the accountability thing of teamwork. What about interpersonal communication and diplomacy when you're handling people?
I think
No, I
that,
think it's great exposure.
yeah, I think it's great because I don't think in our education system, like I don't know if the dialogue is happening
Yeah.
like it does in a work environment. That prepares you for life.
No, for sure.
But I think when you deal with internal customers and external customers, happy, unhappy, abusive,
Yep.
all those things give you such positive experiences. Now, the abusive ones, you could, depending on how abusive and what kind of time frame, you could argue it's a negative or not positive, right? But learning how to take compliments from happy customers and learning to interact with happy customers is a nice skill to have, right? Because a lot of us can't take compliments and a lot of us don't know how to navigate that. Unhappy customers, how can you make a friend? How can you flip their experience? How can you communicate, stay calm, and effectively manage that situation? Such an incredible skill to have, whether it's at home, whether it's at work, wherever it is, it doesn't matter.
In life,
Right.
interpersonal skills. Yeah.
Right. So unhappy customers are a huge blessing.
I love it. Yeah, no, that is great. I'm gonna get off another rant here. My,
That's fine. We
other,
like your
my
rants.
other pet peeve about parenting is the child who is unwilling to go up to the counter and order or go in and talk to someone.
Oh, it drives me crazy.
Oh my god, it is unbelievable.
Dave has no idea what we're talking about because
Yeah.
his daughter orders food
Yeah.
through the back window. He doesn't even roll the window down anymore.
No, that's he's a pro at that. I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
I did it once. I tried it out. It worked. I mean,
I like
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good.
It bothers me so much that you've protected your child so much that you hurt them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That-
no.
that- now they-
Well, you said it earlier. The bubble wrap.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean, like all of a sudden they don't.
Well, they haven't
know.
built antibodies.
Exactly.
Right?
And
Let them eat dirt.
No,
Yeah,
correct. Let them eat dirt and let them communicate with the world.
Yeah.
Because now they're afraid to say anything. You have this culture of silence because you're just sitting there and you're afraid to talk to an adult. Like
Yeah.
we're all human. Talk, say what you're thinking, place your order, complain, do what you have to do.
It's a lost art with the world of devices, electronics, right? Because we're so used to being able to communicate through a screen or have some sort of conduit.
and text. They're like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
I have to send. I'm going to call off and I'm just going to text the owner.
But interpersonal communication is going to be real trendy here soon, right? Because the old comes back anew. So
Yeah,
No,
for
I
sure.
think so.
abusive customers, I think, can be a blessing too. And you talk about the confidence thing. You go handle the abuse. You have the confidence to stand up for yourself and go get a manager and go through the proper channels. Huge skill in life to be able to raise that red flag and stand your ground, right? Some of my favorites here, life skills. How about time management, organization, money handling responsibilities,
Yeah,
right?
love it.
Yeah.
Cooking. That's a great life skill to have. I can tell you how many of my students do not have any cooking skills whatsoever. What if you're stranded on a deserted island? You gonna eat that lizard raw? I don't think you should.
No,
I don't think you should. There's a lot of salmonella there,
you
right?
should cook it.
Do I have my cell phone to watch YouTube and learn how to cook those?
I didn't think about that. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on where you're at, right? So anyway, and hospitality, right? And what I mean by that is you're in an environment where it's all about them and it's absolutely not about you. And I think that's such an incredible life lesson and such a incredible way to walk through life. You talked about giving and taking, you know, it's all about giving and all about making other people happy. And I think
Yeah.
when you get that benefit and that intrinsic reward, that's addictive, and you continue doing that for a long time, right? Like service is kind of ingrained and addictive that way.
That might be my number one, actually. Just the hospitality industry. I mean, it's
Yeah.
to learn that skill set is huge for
Give
life.
first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say that's my number one too. To be able to take that into your life and potentially other professions, whether you're a lawyer or you have a small business or you're serving other people, and that is going to be the skill set that it's going to transcend your time at the restaurant.
Yeah, I can't disagree, man. And then last couple of points here, mentorship. This is a big one for me because I it's God, I love my parents, but they never told me to latch onto a mentor. I didn't realize how important that was. My grandmother was my mentor, and thank goodness, because she was amazing. And my parents did an awesome job. But it wasn't like that business sense, like go out and get a mentor, learn from them. But in an independent restaurant, you have a lot of access to people you don't in a corporate setting. So ownership, upper management, things you wouldn't be able to talk to in a corporate bureaucracy. But in the independent realm, you see the owner all the time, right?
Yeah.
So the chances of you being able to glean and take inflection from them, I think, is superior and incredibly beneficial.
And maybe add them to your circle of 5.
Yeah.
Love it.
And very good. And they're worldly. They're exposed to a lot. So the fact that they may know, hey, I know this person in this industry would be very good. Like, I think we're so stuck in this, like, this is the blueprint of life. Like, you go to high school, you go to college, and then you get a 9 to 5 and you get a mortgage and you do this. Like, no, there's other methods out there that are so much better. Explore that. Talk to people who started their own business. Talk to people who went directly into corporate America. Like, talk to those people and learn from them what they did, because that may be the path for you.
So funny.
And I think what we're getting to is your network.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, not only mentorship, but how do those people connect you to other people? And,
Yeah. And my next
Build
bullet
that.
point was you have access to mistake makers. And
Yeah.
it's just what you said.
I
Like,
love
hey,
that.
I did this and don't do that. And that's how I teach mostly through to the younger kids is, hey, look, on one hand, I'm successful and I love life. And on the other hand, there's some missteps I made. How about I leverage those to make a better life for you? And then last but not least, you're subjected to diversity in both ethnicity and socioeconomic disparity. And I think that's such a valuable lesson. Understanding that sometimes your bus person or dishwasher has to ride the bus 2 hours to work. So it really puts things in perspective for you, right? Like, people sometimes have it bad, and we often have this illusion of grandeur that life is gumdrops and candy canes, and it's important to learn those lessons, and hopefully the hospitality spun in them to where they help these people out. But it's such an important thing for me.
I love it.
No, that's great.
No, thank you, Anthony. This is really good.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
And I think as the restaurant operator, like, how do you, think and dwell on some of these things to make sure that your environment is a place where, you want that somebody will choose and say, yeah, maybe the restaurant industry has these, but you know what, this operator, like, I'd be proud to have my kid work at this operator.
No question.
And this is how you need to market yourself to the community. This is how you market to the guidance counselor at the high school. This is how you market yourself to the community college. This is how you market yourself to your customers who have kids that need jobs.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I've implored owners and operators through my seminars, and one of the questions I ask is, would you want your kids working for your managers?
That's awesome.
it's a great question.
It's awesome.
It's
Because
so,
it puts things in perspective real quick, doesn't it?
Oh,
it's like, it's great that you filled a hole, but is this the type of person you want teaching your kid?
yeah,
Right.
no, instant clarity.
No, awesome. Great topic, Anthony. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, my
Thank
pleasure,
you.
guys. I appreciate it.
Great pod.
Toodaloo.
This is a high quality pod. Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Adios. Thank you for listening to Restaurantopia. The gratitude that we have for each and every one of you spending your precious time to listen to this podcast is immeasurable. Please make sure to tell a friend about this podcast. And also, if you have any feedback for us, visit us on restaurantopia.com and drop us a line. You can also subscribe on your favorite place to listen to podcasts. Thank you and have a great day.
We also want to thank our sponsor, Hillcrest Food Service. If you are a local independent restaurant and are looking for a distributor who has chef and operational consulting, provides marketing support, does menu reviews, and most importantly, wants you to be successful, reach out to Hillcrest Food Service at hillcrestfoods.com.
Toodaloo. Toodaloo. Toodaloo.
You got to keep Toodaloo in.
We are excited to announce the Restauranttopia VIP Text Club. Join by texting the word podcast to 844-928-4257. You will get access to exclusive content, industry news, deals, announcements, pro tips, and more. The VIP Text Club is an exclusive community of independent restaurant owners and professionals. Join today. Message and data rates may apply. Please check our website for our terms of service and privacy policy.